All right. Hey, Anna, how's it going?
Good. Happy anniversary.
Wow, I cannot believe it has been a year since the lockdown show. it's been
Yeah.
and it's been 2 months since we've been on our own show.
I know. It's good to be back.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry what happened earlier. I feel horrible. Um, all right, this is great. First anniversary. Wow. We have so many people in the green room. I'm so excited. We're gonna have a great show. It actually feels weird. I'm actually back at my normal location. The sun is now shining, so I have a little weird lighting. How are you,
I'm good.
Andy?
I,
A
I
year
dressed
later.
up. I got my tuxedo. I got my after party bow tie. And you still love water parks?
I just remember that I told you I was going to get a shirt, then I didn't do that. The tuxedo shirt.
Well, you
No,
you,
I
you
felt
are
bad.
definitely tanned and rested, though.
Yeah, tanned and rested. Feeling great about this is going to be exciting. I mean, we have a lot of great announcements and a lot of huge things in store for the show. Wow. Any big moments that you've seen? Just like the emotions you're feeling right now, Andy.
The emotions I'm feeling right now. I'm happy to be back on our show.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed sitting back and watching other people shine and bring attention to a lot of really important topics and people and issues and all that kind of stuff. It's actually been really great. And
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's hard to believe it's been a year since you tweeted and were like, "Hey, who wants to do this show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, me, I'll do it. Sounds great. Let's do it." And
Well,
now it's this whole friggin' network thing.
I mean, it is really quite remarkable how how big it's gotten and how many people are watching the shows. Really fantastic. And speaking of which, us being off the air for basically 2 months, which is really quite remarkable. We talked about, we handed the keys over, so that we had 2 months that we celebrated as part of the network. We celebrated Black History Month, and we also celebrated Women's Heritage Month. I'm sorry, that messed that up. And actually, we have two people who are hosting our show, Women's History Month. Thanks, Cynthia. MJ and Rachel, why don't you come on the show? Oh, hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Welcome back. How does it feel to be back on the air?
It feels pretty good.
Go ahead, MJ.
Hey, how are you? It was cool, but kind of nerve-wracking to some degree, because I was like, oh, is anybody going to enjoy what I have to say? I mean, I'm really not saying much. I'm just kind of flowing with whomever I'm talking to, so that was scary, but
Oh, you did great.
playing Indian Packers for once.
No, you did, but that was absolutely great. Did you have any highlights from Black History Month that what do you think? Was there anything that stood out for you that you really love watching?
Oh yeah,
They're all good, but
I gotta tell you, the learning about the Field Museum and Carl Cotton with three absolutely incredible women. I actually just spoke to Rita like a couple of days ago,
great.
who was a guest on that show, and just that blew my mind, still blows my mind. And I'm waiting to get vaccinated and for things to slow down a little bit, because I'm going to the Field Museum. But that was definitely a highlight for me, as well as Cedric, who is a very good friend of mine. So yeah,
that's great. No, you did a great job. I thought the program we did was absolutely fantastic. Really loved it. And then of course that flowed right into Women's History Month, not Heritage Month, History Month. Rachel, how was it like taking on some of the reins and hosting the show? I thought you did a great job, by the way. The young professionals and intersectionality was great.
Thanks. Yeah. I was a little nervous because I haven't been a guest on the show in quite a while. So it's quite a lot of time to moderate and make sure everybody's doing well. But our guests were so fantastic, and it was really easy to have an open discussion about it. I think there were points that I didn't insights that came up that I didn't expect to also, gain a lot of perspective on that I appreciated. And it's, being able to talk about this instead of just say that, we care about diversity, but start looking at specifics of what does that mean? And what are the components that go into that? Instead of just trying to say a holistic, nice thing about diversity, I think that is really powerful. And having those discussions is really important for both Black History Month and Women's History Month.
No, absolutely, 100%. I mean, there was such great programming the entire month of all of our programming here is great at TETV, but it was really special to be able to have such a big platform and shine the spotlight and the focus on these. And of course, we're going to continue talking about it all year long as we do. We're never going to shy away from this, and these topics are just fantastic. Leading into, we actually there are several months where we will be shining the light. So Andy and I will be taking some more breaks in the future. We're happy to do it. Of course, in May, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So we are already having discussions about how we're going to celebrate that and shift the focus and the spotlight. Rachel, you're actually a part of the committee that's working on that. Anything you want to share or any about that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting place to exist in right now, especially with current events. I think something that at least I'd like to focus on is hearing a little bit more about how different AAPI individuals have moved through their careers, and not just focusing on just their heritage or their race, or talking a little bit more about how their culture maybe has intersected with themed entertainment. And like, obviously there's a lot of different discussions addressing the violence towards Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders right now, but I think it's also important not just to tire ourselves out talking about that, but to talk about the ways in which we are empowered, or we do experience growth, or we do experience just a wider, more nuanced range of career and life experiences.
That's that's great, and looking forward to that. And we're gonna be working all together on that, which is fantastic. And then June is Pride Month, so we're gonna be highlighting LGBTQIA plus voices, and that's gonna be also fantastic as well. So June, you can all look forward to that. Mark your calendars for June. Looking forward to do that. MJ, obviously thankful for you for the great hosting and the production assisting you've been doing. Rachel, we're going to bring you back and talk about kind of the beginnings when you came back on. But we also are going to make some big announcements here live on air. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back with you, okay?
Thank you.
Bye. All right, Andy. So we have a couple shows in the works that we're going to make some announcements about, which is a lot of fun. We worked on the I remember how many shows we announced in the very beginning in November. Was it like 5 shows? So yeah, 5 shows. Oh, sorry, you muting, Andy. And immediately in the back of our heads, we kept having all these other shows in mind that we would want to have on the air. So I'm going to talk about one, Andy, and then how about you talk about the next one? Okay. After I give it a thing. So as many of you know, we had the So You're About to Graduate College show. That show evolved into being what is now called A Day in the Life at, which is an industry showcase show that talks about all sorts of companies in the industry. So we as an industry can figure out what other people are doing and what kind of opportunities are out there, and the culture within companies as well. And so what happened during that process of we were going to retool the show is that the original producers, Rachel, Kyle Branch, and also Dave Hall and Emily and Kelly, they all were talking about how they wanted that show to evolve to be more student focused. And we agreed that a student show that would focus on college students and the needs that they specifically have would be a good idea. We just kind of put it on the back burner a little bit because we knew that the industry showcase show was a broad audience appealed, and it could help out a lot of people. I also took note that nobody a part of that show was actually a student. And that didn't seem right. So Andy and I have been having discussions over the past couple months with really great, amazing students who are going to be coming together to produce that show. It's going to be we're planning it for it to be a monthly show, and so stay tuned. It's not even named yet. It's the Untitled Student Show, and we're really looking forward to supporting all the entertainment clubs that are at all the schools around the globe. And this is an important step for that. So stay tuned for more announcements. Probably within the next few months, we'll have that show up and running. Andy, how about the other show?
Well, which other show? There's so many.
I
think I can mention the game show that we have in the
show,
works.
Yes.
I think I'm really excited about this one. We're not 100% sure exactly how it's going to work yet, but we know we're going to have a game show with contestants both online and here in the studio, and with audience participation. Of course, one of the hallmarks of TETV live broadcasts is audience participation. We love having your questions and comments, and it's always a big part of every show. And I think we want to have a fun, high energy sort of trivia show what else is it going to be besides trivia? We're not going to have people do like engineering math problems or something like that.
No, it's really, our goal is to have it like the energy of Price is Right, where you can be watching in the audience, and then next thing you know, you're actually live on the air, doing a showcase showdown, or you're spinning the wheel, or whatever it is. So our goal is to be very interactive with that, and with real prizes. So that should be kind of fun. So stay tuned.
Patrick, how many Amazon gift cards have you promised so far? 500, 600?
Yeah, no, yeah. we were originally going to try to do it a month ago, and then it just didn't work out because we were like, this is pretty ambitious to try to get together in 2 weeks. So
yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be some TETV swag of various types.
Yeah, TETV swag, things like that. And now it's. I think it really kind of brings our original mission of bringing people together and having a fun time for everybody watching. So stay tuned to that. And then for those of you who maybe subscribe to our newsletter and following our social channels, you may have got a hint of another show that we have that's coming on. We have Monet Rooney here, TETV exclusive. Hey Monet, our exclusive. What is it called when you're on for the first time? World premiere of Monet Rooney.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your anniversary. Very good, very exciting.
Thank you.
But yes, today we announced the launch of the Big Break Foundation show here on TETV. Never before seen foundation that's going to serve the location-based experience industry and open up access further to the industry. So we'll be talking about idea, inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, and the intersectionality of theme parks and why it's so important that we move towards an equitable and just environment. So check us out online, but you'll hear from our co-founders, Chuck and Patrick, as well as one of our volunteers and myself on Wednesday. So join us. It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. and looking forward to more episodes and highlighting this industry and ways to make it more equitable.
Well, yeah, I'm really excited for that first show. I'm on the first show, so but I will say that this nonprofit, and I don't want to talk too much because I know we have a whole show dedicated to it. But the nonprofit has been really a very long process that would definitely not exist if it weren't for Cynthia Sharpe. Look alive, Cynthia. I must say that Cynthia Sharpe in the studio, folks. Going back towards her TEA state that's on YouTube, and just all of her work that she's done has definitely inspired me over the last year and a half, and it's led all the way to a great nonprofit that Cynthia is also a part of, and it's really I'm really excited about it. Really fantastic, and so thank you, Cynthia, for all that you do. You're really quite a remarkable person and an expert in this.
Thank you. But in case anybody thinks I need to be brought down a peg, I have a funny story about that TEA State 2019 video being on YouTube.
Let's do it.
So after a year, we were finally able to see my mom again. She's fully vaccinated. She now has 5G and is completely under the thrall of Bill Gates. And so she came over for Passover Seder at the start of Passover and asked me if I happen to know of anybody who was an expert in or could speak to how to diversify and make more inclusive your volunteer course, because she is a master gardener and she is helping to organize the International Master Gardeners Conference, which will be coming to Overland Park, Kansas in a couple of years. And I started to open my mouth to answer her, and she said, I thought you might have something to say on this subject, and I found some videos of you on YouTube, and you used the F word.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
Can we talk about the rest of the substance of that talk? Or just no? Okay.
Yeah, Monet, is Big Break Foundation rated PG or is it going to be G? There is no rating on any of the show. It really is up to you as a curator.
I mean, it depends on the topic. I would say the majority of it would be PG, depending on certain topics. If we do dive into trauma or specific areas of mental health, it might not be family friendly, but I think there's lessons that can be learned for all.
Well, there you go. Well, we're really excited for all the work that you've done, and you've been involved. You've been involved. When did you start? We're going to talk on Wednesday, 5:00 Eastern, right?
5:00. Tune in for more.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining, Monet. We appreciate it. We'll say goodbye to you, but let's bring on everybody else, including you, Cynthia. Hey, everybody.
Hey. How's it going?
Back. Michael will be serving a drink.
It's like a Brady Bunch thing of nerdery.
Hey.
Well, welcome back, everybody.
It's good to be back. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Is it paper for the first year? What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, it might be paper. Not too sure.
Whiskey.
It's the Bitcoin. It's a web anniversary.
It's
the Bitcoin anniversary.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I want to start out by saying a big thank you to Rachel, and welcome to Rachel as well, because Rachel's been here almost from the very beginning. You've been here so long, I don't remember actually when you started working on the show. I want to say May or June of last year.
Yeah, I think sometime in the summer. Like, it's hard for me to pinpoint when the beginning of that was. Weird that it's been this long. Like, when I think about it, I'm closer to coming up on it, like a year of having been with the show rather than not, is so bizarre. It's really cool to see how it's grown, because before it was not the giant production that it is, although we still had really good content. It's just evolved so much, and seeing like CJ take over for the producing of this show has been really awesome, and seeing how CJ has elevated the experience. So yeah, it's surreal to see like how many people we have who I realized have been involved from the beginning, and realizing the breadth of people that we've reached for the show.
Well, it wouldn't be what it is without you, and certainly TETV wouldn't be what it is without you, and CJ would have no idea what he's doing without you.
Thank you.
You've trained so many people on TETV, as your senior producer, and now working with Melody on the Slice show. It's been great, and I'm so grateful for all of your talent and hard work on the show and the network this past year.
Thank you, Andy. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, really just to compound it, like you were kind of the first test subject of, could somebody really join this thing and really help out and do the technical producing and all of that, and which was really we really appreciate that, and it made it so much easier to do it, because in the beginning it was like I was doing this, that, and the other and trying to focus, and that's not very easy. So I will just say, Rachel, very appreciative. And yeah, Freelancer Showcase, which is like every week, it's the second weekly show that we have that's very bite-sized and very fantastic that you have that going on. Well, where do we begin? We went into lockdown, and we have some of our first few guests here, and I'd love to start with some predictions that were made. Wouldn't you, Andy? So we all, let's go wind the clock back a year. We're sitting there. We had no idea what was going on. We had been in lockdown for, I guess, a couple of weeks at that point in time, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Everything was closed. You get delivery if you're lucky. The theme parks across the world were closed, and we made some predictions. Isn't that right, Michael?
I mean, I don't really recall if you want to refresh everybody.
All right, let's roll tape. I kind of go back and forth every day. Sometimes I'm like, they're going to open up next week, and then I read another article that's all doom and gloom, and then I think less. But I think that the real, the thing to look at is going to be what Shanghai Disneyland does, and like you said, the smaller regional parks do. So I put up a poll, if you guys can see my screen. How long until domestic Disney parks reopen? I did this March 12th of 2020, so a month and a half ago. 65% of my followers that submitted said by April 15th, so they all are wrong. By May 15th, 23%, and by June and post-June. So I think we're looking at post-June 15th minimum, at minimum, for a domestic park, Universal's and Disney to reopen.
I think it's 2021. I don't think it's going to be this year.
Really?
Do
Yeah.
you think that like a Dollywood or Silver Dollar City might open before then, Michael?
Yeah,
Like
that's
smaller parks, like a Knott's or whatever.
I think as with many other things, including ticket prices, Disney will set the example, and the other parks will.
Wow.
Props to Libby.
And here we are.
Good.
Also, Libby rocking into pandemic lockdown with magnificent full-on COVID hair and facial hair.
Yeah, we could look at that. We could do some hair. I started growing this October 5th-ish, so it's not too crazy. Dave Hall, though, you can see his complete progression on So You're About to Graduate College, from like a crew cut to like now he's looking like the Lebowski. Looks good though. It looks good.
Michael, let's talk through your thought process behind that prediction.
2021.
Yeah, when you said that, and you said you think it's going to be 2021. What was your thought process behind that? Other than just instinct.
He had insider knowledge. That's what it really.
No,
comes down to.
it was more sort of coming from a place of feeling the rock bottomness of our industry at the moment, and. All of a sudden, like I pride myself in being a theme park expert, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going to happen. Like this is unprecedented. And it's also like uniquely targeted to theme parks and public spaces and live events and things like that. So, I believe that you can't just like retrofit a theme park suddenly to be COVID safe. It just doesn't work that way. And there were no COVID solutions being presented at the time. So it's it seemed like it was going to be a while, and it definitely was and still is.
When I asked you to come on the show, you said that you wanted to gloat for a full 5 minutes. How long are we into it now, CJ?
Oh, I mean, I haven't even started the gloating yet.
Yeah. Oh no! Like, please continue. There we go.
Well, you see, here's the thing, you guys. A lot of people, they sort of make panic decisions, and they can't really think outside the parameters of what they've experienced themselves. So it didn't occur to them that there could be a pandemic that lasted a year to 18 months. No, I don't know, you guys. I just didn't. As I said, I was kind of taken aback by how it was just like a silver bullet to our industry. That just seems so specific to kind of screw up everything that we thought we knew. But man, things have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot in the last year. It's been really disruptive. It's been a huge transition and change, but I feel like I've been productive during the last year, and I'm kind of ready for things to start reopening. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And I must say, this is a very LA point of view. I've been rocking out in Orlando, going to Walt Disney World for 8 months. So I wanted to, I don't mean to rain on your the California parade, but
yeah, things are just opening up for us now. This is like we're just coming out of this right now. You guys have had theme parks since when? Since June?
June, yeah. Like Universal June, and then it was about late July, August for Walt Disney World.
Yeah, bars that don't serve food are allowed to open outdoor tables today for the first time in a year.
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah, but restaurants can open up past 50% capacity now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The state that used to ban all liquor sales on Sunday and happy hours at all is now like curbside batch cocktail pickup. Yes, please enjoy.
There's no way we can put that genie back in the bottle because we have cocktail pickup here too.
Kansas has surrendered about curbside batch cocktail pickup and curbside liquor pickup. They're like, yeah, that's have your easy access booze. It's fine.
I mean, there are a lot of genies that we can't put back in the bottle now.
Yeah, yeah.
Knowing precisely how stupid some of your relatives are, for one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I hadn't mentioned it yet, but I did get the vaccine today, so highly recommend it. What's that?
How's the 5G?
It's the cell service is really fantastic, and also you didn't know this, but it boosts your signal of the phones you have.
Oh, great!
So I'm getting. I used to not have cell service in my own house, and now I do. So that's a positive.
Yeah, your internet is much better now, especially for Orlando. I mean.
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Welcome.
Hey,
welcome to the show, David C. Cobb.
Speaking of better cell reception, ever since I got my vaccine, I have a mysterious 5th bar of 5G on my phone.
Exactly. And every time you use Apple Pay, it donates to the Bill Gates Foundation. So I don't know how that
works. It rounds up and donates the change to the Gates Foundation automatically.
Dave, I don't know how much you saw, but Michael was in the middle of gloating about predicting that the Disney parks in Anaheim and California weren't going to reopen until 2021. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was at the time 60% of the public said like 6 weeks, and
yeah,
just the fact that they like I think before the pandemic, it had been twice that they had ever closed it in history for one day. One was 9/11. Right. One was the Yippee revolt or
something. Assassination. But also, they used to be closed on Mondays and Tuesdays for
right. That's true. That's true. But I mean,
sorry, folks, park's closed. Moose outside should have told you.
Yeah.
But to think they would have been closed this long in this way, like I mean, like I'm sure even Libby, you didn't think that all of this would have shut down exactly the way it happened. To think that they would have just completely. I mean, they're only now starting up operations in certain areas and everything, and that I mean, who would have predicted that we'd be at this point? And still, even around the world, even the parks that are open are still recovering. You know, the Disney parks haven't even reopened all of their entertainment yet. So, like, we're not back to normal yet anywhere. There's not a single park that is 100% yet.
I do need to point out, Jason, that an awful lot of people who are epidemiologists actually predicted and wargamed this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember talking to Cynthia in first week of April last year. And it's really great when you work with someone who's a geneticist because you get a reality check really, really quick. And we were like, all right, I'm hunkering down. I fully didn't expect until this year to be.
Nobody expected. But here's my thought, though, is I think initially people were approaching it in terms of like, what are the things we can do from an operation standpoint to make it safe? You know, reduce capacity, social distancing, wear masks and things like that. But from a product standpoint, the audience needs to like be at ease in order to enjoy the product, feel comfortable in the environment. And, you know, so it's not necessarily a question of when it's safe. It's a question of when do people actually feel comfortable letting their guard down to experience the same types of feelings, which is the product. So that's going to take a much longer time. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
What we're seeing now with some of the survey work that's coming out is just because people are vaccinated, there is still a significant portion of the audience that does not necessarily feel safe being in indoor locations in high capacities. I want to go to a restaurant, but it feels so weird and I'm on edge, so I'm not kind of mentality.
Yeah, right.
It's a trauma response. It's going to take a while for people to get over the trauma.
And,
well, you also have,
and it's the whole thrill or fear minus death equals thrill. You know, but if you add back in the possibility of death, it becomes just fear, and so the thrill is not enjoyable anymore.
But then you have the other side of that equation, the other side of not making me comfortable, which are the people who are vocal about not wanting to be controlled by vaccinations and the people not wearing masks. And it's like, at a certain point, you do you, I'm vaccinated, great, go knock yourself out. But it's also not helping in terms of exactly what you're talking about, is that when you get, a bunch of a large section of your audience sort of acting out irrationally, we all know. And if you believe it, anybody listening to this, if you believe any of that crap, unfollow me on every social media you have me on right now, because the science is against you, right? Like there's so many people who have, like, you never see this part of the pandemic movie. You never see this in the dystopia. You never see the idiots who think that it's all fake. That's never in the dystopian fiction we've read. This is a weird, this has been building over how many decades now, and it's just like, really?
I wonder, we don't know that about the 1918 pandemic or 1917 pandemic. It's like, there's no books or articles or movies written about, that, so much, or the isolation that everybody felt. And, I'm a history buff, and like my mind keeps going back to, talk about the year without theme parks, the year without a summer in 1816. After a volcanic eruption, there was just no there was no summer, just winter for a year. And just for me, this has felt like winter for a year in terms of social interaction, the year without going to a theme park. I mean, this has probably been the longest stretch since I've been to a theme park since I was like an infant.
Yeah.
Andy, I'm going to push back on you a little bit. We actually do have some of that from 1918.
Oh.
There are really great studies that incorporate newspaper clippings and public health department reports that show very clearly the cities that were like, fuck it, we're shutting everything down, stay in your homes, we're closing all public entertainments, no church, no schools, no nothing, did not have that. They flattened the curve. They didn't have that second peak. And the cities that had city council members and mayors who were like, no, it's going to be fine. This is all hooey. It's just a bad, everybody's going to be fine. Go about your regular business. They had the second peak. And there are really great bodies of research out there showing, like, here were the newspaper articles that were peddling the same sort of, they didn't call it fake news, but that it was manufactured and it wasn't as bad as people were saying it was, and things like that, versus the cities that took it really, really seriously and clamped down.
I wonder if the psychology was the same then as it is now, with like it along, political party lines and ideological lines and things like that. If it came down to politics and, like my freedoms kind of.
And that's a great TV show pitch right there. Like, I want to see the show set in the first pandemic where people are complaining about, like, oh man, the trolley parks are closed again. Can you believe it? Who would shut these down?
A period pandemic piece.
Pass.
You were touching on this a little bit, and I also want to I know that this is a political show, but I also think the media has really done a horrible job during this entire thing, because they're scaring people all the time and not giving out information for us to celebrate. Meaning, when the vaccine was approved with 95% efficacy, we should have been celebrating safely in the streets because that was a huge accomplishment, except the news was, it's going to take 3 months to get. We don't know if the other things, the variants, are going to help. And there was never really this big moment for us to celebrate and say, yes, let's get the vaccine. Yes, let's go out there and do what we can and mitigate risk. And it's really quite a shame that happened, because it was a huge technological advancement, and the technology they use for some of those vaccines are being used to an amazing thing. I saw something about like they're looking on an HIV vaccine too with it.
Yeah.
Huge medical advancements.
Yeah, and cancer vaccines eventually as well.
But like we didn't get to celebrate because the media's like 3rd, 15th, 18th wave, all true. But like when I looked at CNN, it's like one little headline, 8 million vaccines, distributed, and then it was like 5 doom and gloom things about COVID-19, which is really a serious thing. But like we also need to like have hope, and real hope. But I feel like there's been a weird real hope doesn't really get clicks, because we know that that's not what our society is right now.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's sensationalism and reality TV and everything that has so skewed over the last 30 years, 40 years now, that news is not news. News is supposed to be entertainment. So of course they're not going to report the positives. Of course they're going to focus on the people that are not wearing masks. And when in reality, the people that represent that are probably not as big as that we think they are.
I was sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the other part of it, though, is I think everyone was caught so off guard with the situation that let's take it back to the themed entertainment industry, right? Because like now we're all processing the data and figuring out what to do with it. How do we change business models? What should change after this? You go to the Disney parks and you get the sense that people just want it to go back to the way it was before in terms of the guest, but should it? Every single park operator out there is questioning their business model right now and figuring out how do we prevent ourselves from getting screwed from another situation like this, but also what should change after this? Should we change our capacity numbers? Should we change our pricing structure? All of that. So I think every business, not just in themed entertainment, everyone is now focusing on picking up the pieces and figuring out where to go. And so I think everyone's now preoccupied with that. What are the next steps, and when is this over, and what do we learn from this?
Well, along those lines, I'd love to go around the horn and have everybody make new predictions as to when and if do you expect or think that things operations in theme parks stateside or otherwise will go back to pre-COVID. Jason, you go first.
I don't know if everything will go back to the way it was pre-COVID. I mean, I think there is a real question now as to whether it's a good business model to pump as many guests into a park as possible. The whole idea of put yourselves at an attractive price point and get volume through your park, that's the thing that became the thing that broke the model for what we just went through. And so I think everyone now is questioning, is it a better experience to pay a little bit more, have less people in the park at the same time? I don't know. That's a big debate. I will tell you from my personal experience going at the beginning of the pandemic and going through the Magic Kingdom in August with nobody there was the best experience I've ever had. Best time I've ever had in the theme park. And just a few months later, when it was at the simulated larger capacity, it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. So I mean, I think everyone is looking at that now, and I don't know if it will ever go back to the way it was before. I think there are some real lessons to take from this, and I think it's going to apply to everything from small FECs all the way through the Disney parks, Universal parks, everyone.
Yeah, the commodification of the gate is dead, and go ahead. No, and just looking at what Disney did with their season pass program by blowing it up was something that has been a long time coming, COVID notwithstanding. COVID just enabled it and put it under a microscope that this is the right time to do it. And there's going to be lots of people who are very disappointed that they can't go multiple times a year without it being real expensive. There's going to be a lot of cries of, oh, it's too classist now, or it's too elitist. And it's like, okay, I hear you, but it wasn't before the pricing strategies before the annual passes ever became a thing were more in line with the audience's ability to go, and more in line with the economics of the day, as it were. And so it's like, I hate to say it, it's just responsible business for them to do this.
I wish I could play Back to Before from Ragtime underneath this discussion.
I think that, well, what's interesting about Disneyland, I'll make my predictions in a moment, but to comment on that is that the whole way that guests use Disneyland completely changed since 2001. When I was going there as an annual pass holder, as I was kind of part of the problem. I go after class in high school, go for 3 hours and leave. And that was back when the parks were very crowded. And sometime between that and the last 20 years, it's just completely blown up with people going and using the infrastructure that was meant to handle 4 people per car and staying for an 8-hour day, to people coming 1.2 per car and staying for 2 hours. That created a lot of infrastructure issues on the parks that they weren't really able to. They never really caught up. They just now caught up with the parking structures. But even then, getting in and out of those parks is quite a bit of a handful. So I think my prediction I'm not going to make a prediction on that yet. That was just a comment about.
Patrick, I was the exact same demographic for my entire adult life, essentially, where even when I lived in Orange County, I would just show for a few hours and hang out and whatever. And then even living in Los Angeles for the past 25 years, was still my friends and I would go down and spend 3 or 4 hours, maybe have a little bit of dinner, watch one of the shows, and then leave and essentially buy nothing, and it was a big I've been an annual pass holder for 35 years up until now.
Same.
Yeah.
And it's I hate to be like the old guy going back when I was a kid, but
yeah,
I went to Disneyland maybe once a year as a kid, maybe.
Yeah.
And not that it has to be that special. Like, there is a middle ground. There is a gray area for how to treat, especially Disneyland in particular, as a third space. But they gave away the gate for so long that they sort of trained the audience to expect a certain thing that is not a tenable business.
Yeah, my friends and I had annual passes in like the late 80s, mid to late 80s, when they were like $45, and no restrictions, no blackout days, no nothing, and we would just ride our bikes there and hang out.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Anaheim.
Yeah, I know for me at least, our family didn't have air conditioning growing up here in Southern California, so it was cheaper for us to buy summer annual passes to Disneyland, because it was something for the 3 of us to do that we wouldn't kill each other at. Well, and then I'd go for a nap around 3 p.m. So things would be smoothed over. But that would be unimaginable, I think, today with what the income that our family had at the time. Like, it's probably a toss up between air conditioning and Disney, just because both are so expensive.
Yeah.
So, well, Rachel, what are your predictions for theme parks, and where do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think so. I follow the theme park journalist Carly Wiesel, and I think the one thing I think that she is really absolutely correct about, although I think most of what she says is correct, is that Avengers Campus, I think the opening of that will be cued in when capacity increases to out-of-state people, is not just California residents. The reason I say that that will happen at that time is because Black Widow is being released in July, and Black Widow's villain, I guess, is really key to the stunt show at Avengers Campus. So it would make sense that in terms of going beyond the 25% California residents only capacity, that would happen around then, especially as we move into the orange tier. I think in terms of longer changes to the theme park experience, the way in which we think about theme parks and how we visit them is going to have to change completely from what it is now. And I know everybody's going to be quite upset about it, and people already are upset about it. But the idea that for the future, reservations are going to have to be a thing that happen not just for Flex Pass holders, but for everybody, and that you can't just have unlimited, no blackout dates passes like that, simply because it doesn't make sense for Disneyland as a business, like Dave was saying. I think like I'm very, as a consumer and a visitor of the parks, I'm very nervous and hesitant about what this is going to mean for me as a visitor. I do think that it'll be better overall, the new precautions and things that we, would be helpful, and the restrictions on how many people can be in the parks, just on the guest experience itself. But it is, at least in some ways, like selfishly a little difficult to like try and wrap your head around. I just think that the way in which I think of the parks and how I personally enjoy them is, going to be much different. Sorry, that was vague and non-committal because I don't want to be wrong.
No, that was great. I it's funny. You've said a lot of things that I want to say too. Is like, this year without theme parks has really given me pause and made me think about how I'm going to consume theme parks in the future too. But I'll get to that when I make my predictions to talk about that. Cynthia, what do you think? I'm
going to hit on something related, but not directly about what we've all discussed here. And that's the labor force, because it has been not only a year of COVID, but it has been a year of increasing awareness of and calls for racial justice, a year of highlighting racial and socioeconomic inequity, a year of increased dialogue around minimum wage and living wage. And we've seen, even in states that went for 45 and not Biden, the passage of a $15 minimum wage law kind of thing. And over the course of the year, we have seen a rise in mutual aid societies, whether it's Museum Workers Unite or Fair Jobs UK, or even Cast Member Pantry. And we have seen an uptick in unionization. And if you don't think that Disney is looking at things like the Amazon union vote, I promise you that they are. And Disney is already dealing with unions and is already doing staffing restructuring in the parks with the presence of unions in mind. If you look at the patterns of who got let go and when and who's getting called back, there's a story there. The purpose of a corporation, of a publicly traded corporation, is to maximize shareholder value, unless they're a B Corp. And Disney and Universal Comcast are not B Corps. So I think we're going to see a real change in how these companies have to operate, because some of them have locations or sites which are in municipalities or states that have very different laws now about minimum wage, about benefits, and things like that. And so I think we might not see a one-size-fits-all approach from these companies, that the way that they operate one park may be different than another. Disney has, this is a conversation that I've had time and time again, that Disneyland and Disney World are not hot swappable, that they are fundamentally different experiences in a wide variety of ways, not the least of which is a vacation, and how you go about planning a vacation at one is very different than for the other, and how they're staffed, and the implications for the number of attractions they have and all of that. They are two very different sites to operate. And Disney can lean into that difference in meeting the different mandates from the two states. Six Flags is going to have to do that. They've got locations in some states which are like minimum wage, and others which are $15 minimum wage. So I think we're going to see some real bifurcation in how different venues under the same corporate umbrella tackle that challenge. And I think we're going to see increasing vocal displeasure at companies that charge potentially this increased premium for an experience, who then don't pay their employees a living wage. I think that's going to be, to Jason's point of leaning into higher price point, better experience, and breaking the model. If you go down that route, there are activist shareholders who are very, very willing to make a very public big stink about how you're paying your employees. And I think we're going to see that just amplify over the next year.
There's that sweet Cynthia Sharpe content that I come here for.
I am an angel of sweetness and light.
I'm
also
suckling...
nice They Might Be Giants reference there.
You're welcome.
Yes,
nicely
I
done.
got that too. Oh, I'm suckling at the teat of deep intellectual conversations here.
Please don't say teat, please.
I don't know if we're supposed to do that.
That's a Title IX violation. So
yeah, Michael Libby, the Nostradamus himself, at least for Disneyland. I got to put that caveat. You guys are in such a LA bubble. It's really fascinating. But
yeah, we are very civilized. We're very civilized over here.
More like Brostradamus. Am I right?
Michael Libby.
Now I know what I need to embroider for Libby.
I gotta see if that domain name is available.
That's a Twitter. Start it right now. Literally start it right now.
All right. So I will give my predictions. Just to plant a flag somewhere. I'm going to say parks are going to open something resembling the levels that they were before October 1st, simply because it's a new fiscal year for Disney. And I feel like they can just say that it's a wash and most everyone will be vaccinated. So just to throw a dart at a calendar, I'm going to say October 1st. But in terms of the bigger questions, I think, just to echo what people have said, these big entertainment companies are starting to realize how precious physical, tactile, immersive real estate is compared to the demand for it. And we're going to see, basically, in short, I think we're going to really see a very quick embrace of the concept of the metaverse and the ability to visit the park without actually visiting the park, if that makes sense. Essentially to expand capacity, by adding virtual capacity to satiate some of the demand. And of course, the Disney parks here in Anaheim are tentatively planning, a massive expansion just to add even additional capacity. But when digitally you can add instances of things, like a raid in Warcraft or a free-for-all or a battle royale in Fortnite, you can just create another instance of the Tiki Room and put 250 people in it every time. And there could be millions of people in thousands of Tiki Rooms in virtual space. But so to echo what Jason said specifically, I totally agree. I think we're going to see a complete rethink of the entire business model, with more of a luxury focus on the physical space, but also some monetization of the virtual space. So just thinking about gate money and per capita restaurant and merchandise spending, I think it's just going to be completely upended if you have, if you're paying a subscription model for the online component or, in-app purchases for your avatar and things like that. It's going to change. This is obviously a couple years out, but I think it's going to be here quicker than anyone thinks.
Yeah, and I think you brought something up interesting, because I think the examples that we're going to see that take this all into account have been announced already. I mean, I think you've got a Universal Park, which is turned back on. You've got an expansion in Anaheim. There's some other smaller things out there around the world, but at least domestically in the U.S., those are going to be the two developments that think about this 360 degrees. Think about the business model and how it applies to the usage of land. That's the most expensive input into any of these projects is how much real estate do you devote to a piece of the product, and if you have to rethink what that is that you're putting in, and if it has to operate under a completely different business model, this isn't a retrofit. These are things that are going to be with all of those considerations baked in from the beginning. So that's the most interesting thing for me.
And we're seeing that not just in theme parks. We're seeing it if you look at any of the publicly available RFPs that have been posted, whether it's museum, zoo, aquarium, LBE, what have you, over the past several months for either expansions or experience master planning or whatever, there is that paragraph in there, which is so driven by what this year has been, of how does it connect to digital? How does anything that we envision for the new insert name of institution here work outside the confines of the building we currently have, flexible, nimble, can change on a dime, that is in there for any of the location-based experiences that are at the beginning of the process now. It's not unique to theme parks.
Yeah. I mean, my prediction is right along those lines, and that is that riffing off of something Andy said about it being sort of a luxury focus, right? I don't see that necessarily just as money. Time is a luxury as well, and nearly every other entertainment form has a defined capacity and a time gateway based on your ticket, right? A Broadway show, a sporting event, a movie theater. And the fact that it took the parks this long to get to that, like if you look at the Flex Pass that Disney had before the annual passes were canceled, that is the beginning of a much larger play in that, yes, it's going to be accessible to a large number of people multiple times a year, maybe even as annual passes, but you are going to be asked to dedicate when you're going. You're gonna have to have skin in the game. A reservation system is absolutely going to be de rigueur, I think, for every park, possibly with the exception of the regionals, but I think they'll even do it at peak times now, because the business model they operate much better and give a better experience if they know exactly who's coming. And
every fine dining restaurant now requires,
right,
a $20 deposit for your reservation. If you don't show up, you lose $20.
Right. And unfortunately, they've trained an audience, especially at Disneyland, for the last 25, 30 years, that you can just show up whenever. Well, that world's done. Doesn't mean you can't be a pass holder. Doesn't mean you can't go multiple times a year, but you got to have skin in the game. And if you, and I loved the Flex Pass system for that. I loved the sort of 3 strikes rule that if you made reservations and didn't show up, that they would, put a block on your pass. I think that's absolutely valid.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be what moves forward.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I'll go next. I mean, because my feelings are exactly the same as you mentioned. I mean, the way I've thought about the parks here in California and Southern California have changed, dramatically in the past year, and slowly over like the past 10 years or so. I mean, I grew up, with Disneyland and to some degree California Metro is just like an amenity, like a movie theater or a city park or a roller rink or anything like that. It was just like, oh, it's just here. We get to have this. Yeah, we're very lucky, but we can go essentially whenever we want. And as it got, as I moved north to Los Angeles and as it got more difficult to actually get into the parks, I was almost half joking, in the last year or two, saying like, it's almost easier for me to drive to the Burbank airport from my house, fly to Universal Orlando and go to Diagon Alley than it is to drive from Los Angeles to Anaheim and park in the Mickey and Finn's parking structure, go through security, get in the tram, get into the parks, and the whole rigmarole. Has become a barrier for me in terms of like time and effort. And I think of it more as like like Cookie Monster would say, it's a sometimes food, and I just, I'm going to look at it more of like a luxury experience. Like when I would go to, when Orlando is like, you plan for it and you save for it and you go, and it's not something you do very often. Or like when I go, traveling either to Asia or Europe, like it's a special thing, going to to Shanghai Disneyland was like a big deal, special thing for me, you know, and I actually am looking forward to the feeling of excitement that I'll get of like, oh, I get to go to Disneyland this month or this week or whatever, you know, like maybe I'm going to go to Disneyland like 3 or 4 times a year. And it's like, I'm willing to pay $200 to do that and spend the whole day and an evening and, you know, feel like it's a lot more meaningful, you know, and also have less people there and have it be a better experience. And as part of their prediction, it's like, you know, I'm nervous about going to Disneyland in the next, say, few months. I probably wouldn't go in the summer anyway. But I don't know how I'm going to feel about seeing like plexiglass barriers everywhere and all of that kind of stuff, you know, invading my Disneyland space. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to that.
You know, I want to respond to something Jason said about like the projects that are being built from the ground up. That's going to be really interesting because there's always sort of almost an overcorrection on the next project to the thing that was the Achilles heel of the last project. And Cynthia, actually, I think it was maybe you who told me this like 10 years ago or something, but that Animal Kingdom was the first park to be built from the ground up as being ADA accessible. And, you know, when you go to Disneyland here in Anaheim, it's built in 55, there are all of these like adapter devices to get wheelchairs like onto the steam train or into a Jungle Cruise boat or things like that. But when you go to Animal Kingdom, the wheelchair is just like the train ground is just flush with the station. So it can just go right onto it and everything has been thought of to accommodate that. I think we're going to see that kind of approach to these projects. It's the opportunity for a ground up rethink to apply these new principles, you know?
So you're going to have natural plexiglass barriers everywhere.
Exactly.
Built in.
They're going to be like, just really organic and spring from the
artisanal plexiglass. Artisanal
single very, very expensive plexiglass.
Chihuly designed plexiglass.
So Libby, you raised a great point, and it's something we're seeing on the museum side, where there are a number of museum executive leaders, C-suite, what have you, who are very forcefully saying there is no going back to normal. Normal was not good. Normal was toxic. Normal was harmful. Normal excluded. There were people who didn't feel welcome in our spaces. There were people who were not welcome in our spaces. And we can't just go back to that. This is an opportunity to dismantle the processes that we engaged in, the way that we did things, the physical structures of our spaces and places that aren't inclusive, that aren't welcoming, that were harmful and toxic. And those museum leaders, they're not letting up on that messaging as vaccination rollout accelerates and we're seeing loosening of restrictions on how many people that can be in their museums again, kind of thing. They're not letting up on it. And I think you're absolutely right. There is, if we fail to capitalize on the opportunity that the next design and the next build represents to do things better, that's a travesty.
Well, I guess it's my time, I guess, to make some predictions. So I have a crystal ball because I feel like I'm living in the future in Orlando, Florida, 7-8 months after all the parks have been open, and I've also traveled on airplanes and things like that. I think that I'm going to bridge a couple things together. I think we are going to notice 10 times more adjustments to the parks that are made to be more inclusive than we are for COVID-19 as we perceive, like Cynthia was talking. I thought it was a really interesting point, Michael, about how you don't necessarily notice ADA. It's just already built and done. I think you're going to see some minor adjustments to like, hey, maybe we don't want to have 50 kids touching a Winnie the Pooh wall all at once. Things like that, I think, are where those are kind of the no-brainers that we're going to see go away. In regards to the public, they are ready and willing to go into a group. I've seen it. I see them cluster. They don't social distance. we're talking a lot of people are ready to go back and pretend this is all over. So I think that you will see once the cases go lower and lower, people will be getting back to feeling okay about being around people. They'll be wanting to go into a pre-show and crowd around. And I've been in the parks. The plexiglass tends to fall away. Starts to be a little bit of a bummer, but once you're kind of into it, I think those are going to fall away too. I don't think those plexiglasses are here to stay forever. I don't think that. I think they're going to fall away. I'd say by the end of 2020, I'd say probably mid 2022, most COVID protocols will have fallen away. Now, things that are all operations focused. So we'll be back to capacity, presuming there's not some sort of crazy other variant that comes back to haunt us. Maybe Cynthia can comment on that with her scientific background, or does not want to put that out in the earth. So we're talking about very interesting things here. So there's Disneyland, which just totally threw out their annual pass program. And I got Walt Disney World. I got this bad boy right here I can use. It's different out here. So the clientele's different. I agree with Dave Cobb that during peak periods, they are going to keep the reservations. They would keep that reservation system. That is a smart move to do. No problem. At least Disney. Universal hasn't done any reservation system this entire time. They've just closed the gates. If they haven't done it during peak COVID, I'm not sure why they would. I don't know if they would change to adjust it. May make sense for Halloween Horror Nights, maybe, but I don't know. I don't have any insider knowledge on that. I think we're going to see more virtual queues. The virtual queues I think are great, especially for attractions that might be a little bit in their breaking in period, as we've seen with the Rise of the Resistance. But I expect we'll see more of those. I think Disney may go out and I don't know. Maybe we're going to see the return of local, regional entertainment from big companies. Maybe we'll see a Universal experience that's in Milwaukee, or a Disney experience like not necessarily as big as Disney Quest, but more like Club Disney, which was in the 90s, when they're going to try to compete for these locals that may not be wanting to go to Disneyland anymore, but they still want that entertainment. That could be
Patrick,
too.
I don't mean to wolf blitzer you like this, but I break in for a second and say thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining our panel. Cynthia has to leave us right now.
Bye, Cynthia.
But
sorry, y'all. Parenthood calls.
And we'll see you very soon on your own shows.
Get your vaccine. It's awesome. The 5Gs is great.
Thank you, Cynthia. Sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
No. Sorry, I didn't see that in the chat feature. So, I would say for you all. Now I'm talking to all the LAians.
Angelinos.
You are going to be surprised. You are going to be surprised at how things bounce back. I'd say. I'm in Orlando, a very progressive city. Was just in a vaccine line. Every single person had a mask, but people will come back to their normal habits, and they want to feel better. And I think we're gonna see that people out, and I think it'll come back.
I think we're feeling it over here. Yeah, like, there is a sense that it's coming to an end.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, our numbers are way down, and what is it? 3 million Californians a day are getting vaccinated, or 1 million, or something like that. It's it was
amazing. Four a day over the weekend. 4 million.
Our own producer CJ.
CJ,
I knew you were going to bring him on. It wouldn't be Untitled without bringing on our producers without warning. But
it's your resident vaccine expert. How's it going?
CJ, for those of you who don't know, works at the Dodger Stadium mass vaccination site here in Los Angeles as a manager of that thing, and he has been giving us the inside scoop the whole time about how things are going and supply and all that kind of stuff. CJ, what have you got? What do you think about all this from that world?
From that world, I think things are close. Inside that world, you see the timelines just consistently getting pushed forward, at least out here in California. When we started the vaccine site back in January, a lot of the predictions were we'd definitely be open till September. We probably wouldn't be open till middle of summer until we'd be able to vaccinate everyone. And then Biden came on and said we'd be opening up sooner than that. And now everyone in California is going to be eligible here in 5 days.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of exciting things with how fast they're going. And a lot of the infrastructure now is they have all the people they need to get out as many vaccines as we can as soon as we have them produced. So as soon as those vaccines are produced by the companies, I think you're going to see things accelerate a lot faster, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I was at a site today, and I was, I'm an operations guy, so at my heart. So I was like calculating, and I'm like, they could easily do 10,000 people a day here. They could easily with the system, how many people they had going on, but they weren't because in the past they haven't because they haven't had the demand of people over 40 or 55 who are showing up. But the millennials were out in full force. Everyone was like, all right, we're doing this together. We're locking arms. We're waiting in lines. We're having to do it first day out.
I think the interesting thing is going to be about, though, there's all that talk online now about vaccine passports and people freaking out. First of all, traveling internationally, it's been required for a lot of countries for a very long time. Private industries, schools, military, jobs often require it. So people it's a tempest in a teapot that I think is ridiculous that people are
insane.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, but it's like that's the irony is that people are saying no more big government telling us when to get a vaccination. It's not going to be government that enforces it. It's going to be private business. Madison Square Garden has already said when they open these venues, you will not be able to go without proof of a recent test or proof of a vaccination. And people are going to whine and cry, but that's the world we're going to live in.
And that's how the cruise industry is going to recover as well. I mean, nobody talks about the cruise industry, even though it's a $150 billion a year business, that's taken a huge hit, like themed entertainment. And I think that we're seeing like MSC and Royal Caribbean and NCL, they're all saying that they're just gonna you have to be vaccinated. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
and I think that's great. I mean,
you can't send your kids to school. You can't send your kids to school in California without a long list of vaccines. So get over it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's such a weird and I get it. Like I can get the psychology of like, well, it felt so rushed. Wow, it was so much faster and all that. We've had we've had somebody come on the show. No, it wasn't Justin. Somebody else on the show, a doctor, come on and explain the entire process of it. And it's like people like to accept science when it's convenient for them, and then when it's not, or they will say, "Oh, no, that's not real." And it's like, no, your plane takes off because of science, and this vaccine works because of science.
Yeah, you don't get to cherry pick science in your life. You don't get to use your computer and the internet and your car and then be like, well, I'm not so sure about these medicine things. It's just like, no, you're not an expert. It's like, tell me more about what you know about quality control for vaccine development.
Yeah, confirmation bias is a terrible thing. And to be honest, as far as safety is concerned, though, like those communities that decide to push against this and not do it, they're going to show that the flaws are going to show up in those communities very quickly. Right? The rate of people in very small communities all over the country, be them cities, be them religious groups, be whatever, if they don't get vaccinated, they're going to suffer.
One thing is, and by the way, it was Isaiah Cochran who came on the show, a doctor who came on. I apologize for slipping on his name. It's a great show when we went through the whole vaccine. To your point, Dave, and I think about this a lot. In the back, the really cynical, evil part of Patrick, he's a little teeny. It's evil Patrick. He's like, all right, let these communities fall to the ground, and that's their business. So that's their families. And, we have people, people are like, oh, I'm not getting the vaccine. That's a prerogative. And then I kind of think of like, well, there's people who like, they literally can't get the vaccine because their body can't take it, or they have a medical condition that prevents it. And so it's just like, if you're healthy and able and, I would encourage people to follow the science, do as much research as you can, listen to experts, and to really push towards that so we can get through this. All of you have vaccines in you right now that are running through. You don't have polio. Think a vaccine for that.
You're talking about empathy, which is in short supply here in this country.
Yeah.
So we know how COVID and now the rate of vaccinations have affected theme parks, but let's talk about our predictions for how this is all going to affect free samples at IAPA this next year. What do we think is going to happen with all this? Are we gonna get our beaver tails and Dippin' Dots, or are we looking at a weird year this year?
I swear to Christ, if I don't get my mini donuts, I'm gonna flip some tables at
I think they'll figure out a way to give out those samples.
I think we'll see some products that were developed during the pandemic, expecting the pandemic to go longer, and now they're just sort of like, we missed our window.
Yeah, we need the tube with ice cream in it that's sponsored by Pfizer, and you just get your vaccination.
Snacksination.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check to see if that domain name is available.
You're getting these for free, guys. I'm giving these out. All yours.
I mean, I for one am I'm so excited about IAPA this year. I mean, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna have a good time, and I'll be fully vaccinated, and I'm sure all of our colleagues will be vaccinated, and it's just gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be like turned up to 11 this year. I just have a feeling.
Yeah, it's. I mean, November. That feels really good for vaccinations to go in, and
the TETV party is going to be off the chain.
This is going to be the year where we all recklessly catch a norovirus and we all just end up with terrible stomach flu.
Oh no!
Well, so I have a question for you guys. So for you, so there's a thing in that COVID related. Now I love how we're like now and like almost like getting close to post COVID where we feel like it's coming. Excuse me. I feel like I'm going to want to wear masks in certain situations now during normal times. Like a plane feels so weird to me being close to so many people, even though the circulation's great. Have you guys ever thought about that? There's other areas in the world where if you have even the slightest sore throat, you throw a mask on, and that's what you do as a good human.
Yeah.
Never ever brought up ever in America. Now, first off, I'll probably just stay home. But it's like if you have any sort of symptom of any kind, throw a mask on. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it makes me think of the actor Jane Lynch. I saw a tweet by her some months ago that said, "You know what? I haven't been sick for over a year. How about just masks forever?"
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think, I haven't been sick since I probably had COVID back in January of last year when I was really, really sick. And I haven't even had so much as a sniffle in the past year, or a cough or anything. I get sick 2 or 3 times a year because I stay up too late and I eat a bad diet and I drink too much. And, so I'm, getting sick all the time, and going to theme parks and touching everything and then licking my fingers.
I had a friend who got vaccinated. Says I'm gonna lick every handrail at Halloween Horror Night.
No, that's not good.
I don't know. I'm scared of not wearing masks again. I feel like it's just a comfort thing. I got a frozen strawberry drink from Taco Bell the other day, and my lips were red, and I was like, this is going to be a problem after this year. I can't just walk around after this. So there's something to that.
No, but for real, I can imagine. I mean, I haven't been on a plane like some of you have in the past year. But I have been to Vegas a few times, and having been to Vegas and worn a mask in public and all that kind of stuff, I was just like, I'm fine with this. And if people give me looks going to a theme park or an airport or whatever, like a year or two from now, fine. That's they'll get over it.
I think the bottom line is something you said earlier, Andy, in that this is about empathy. I'm vaccinated. I'm not necessarily worried for myself in terms of safety. Yeah. I'm trusting the science, but I'm going to wear a mask in public until we're down to some much, much, much lower tier out of effing respect for people around me, because that and again, we benefit from having been to to Asia, to China and Japan, where again that's very, very normalized. But here you have people piling masks and burning them because they're repressing them, and it's like, oy, it's just, if anything, I want to keep wearing it, not for my own safety but for other people, just in case that asymptomatically I can still transmit. Thankfully, the science is coming back that the vaccines probably even help with preventing that too, which is great. But I'm still going to wear one for that reason. However, with friends and that are vaccinated with me and going to visit people at their houses or even at restaurants, I'm okay with that. And part of that is I got real spoiled this past year because I was down in San Diego about half of my time since last May. And last summer, restaurants were open outdoors, and I went to restaurants and bars all the time. Like a lot. We were very safe. We wore masks in and out. All the places were really good about the COVID procedures. And the proof in the pudding is I was going down to San Diego to take care of an elderly parent, and I had to get I got tested every week weekly since May because I just needed to know, right? Well, if anything, that normalized getting tested, normalized wearing masks for me. It made me far less anxious about it because it proved that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, I wanted to say, me and my wife, we got the vaccine this morning, and we both agreed that getting COVID tested, the PCR test, is far more invasive than the vaccine. I hate needles and all that, and it was like, oh, okay, done. And my arm's a little sore, but other than that, other than the old stick in the old nose, say that.
Yeah, I will say, I think just regarding the comfort level of wearing a mask after this is over, like personally, myself and like one of my friends who, she goes running with her mask on in Oakland, and we're both Asian. So the things that people have yelled at her for wearing the mask or not wearing the mask in Oakland has been like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, where they're mad that you're wearing the mask because you buy into it / they think that you have it, or they say they either beat on you for believing in masks or just for being Asian and like calling her COVID in the street just when she's out running, which is so wild to me because we're in California and you figure that wouldn't happen, but like the concept of like, as an Asian person, will I have to be more aware of wearing a mask in public after this? Because what will it, when I feel nervous when I cough in public, because it's like, this isn't illegal, but being Asian and coughing in public right now feels like it's not okay. Or even if I'm just clearing my throat or something. So that's been, I think, the way in which like I will have to publicly conduct myself, even though I will be vaccinated. I'll get my second dose in a couple weeks. Even though I'll be fully vaccinated, I think like from an optics standpoint, I'm going to have to show that I am extra careful just to be able to participate in public spaces without disdain or like going to theme parks kind of thing. The experience is going to be so much like, paying attention to the minutia of my behavior, which that's just something that I'm going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we really even haven't talked about that at all, Rachel. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. Just the insane, discrimination happening in the world, completely ridiculous and unwarranted. It's really horrifying, and we're here to support you in anything we can do to help. We know it's really tough. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just freaky because you think it's not going to happen in my neighborhood, and then it does happen in your neighborhood, or like, an elderly man a block down from where my friend goes running, like was like killed because of it. And so, then you're just like, my dad is going to take the day off to take me to my second shot because he's worried somebody at the CVS in Glendale he's concerned that something bad will happen. And I personally believe something bad will happen? Hopefully not. I think I'm perfectly safe in Glendale, but then again, considering all the events that have happened, it's just such a wild conversation to have with like my family. Like that's not something we've ever worried about. And like, I'm kind of, even if my dad were there, I'm also worried for his safety as well. So it's just like it's an extra layer of stress and complication on top of like regular stress of the pandemic and stuff like that. That just, it's so exhausting to deal with that I like often don't think about it just because it's too much to process. But yeah, sorry, that's like a little aside, like personally.
No, it's very important. Well, we will lock arms with you and support you in any way we can, wherever you are, whether it's IAPA or wherever it needs to be. We will lock arms with you and support you. It's really horrifying. We're really sorry about, very, very tragic what's going on.
Well, I'm
on that happy note,
yeah, well,
take it away, everybody.
I'm looking forward to addressing these kinds of issues and the sort of systemic or political and cultural things that have led to that, in our Asian American Pacific Islander month coming up soon that Rachel is spearheading as well. So I think that it's an important conversation that we're looking forward to having here on the network. And,
so, sorry,
from Tucci producer, I think I want to say Tucci because that's more
Tucci.
fun. She brings up a good point. What do you think about hostile and racist people who act out in the parks?
Trespassed, kicked out.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Private business. Get the hell out.
Yeah. No, you're done. Like the guy who refused a temperature check and was like, "Oh, I paid $15,000." Like, so did everybody. So did everybody else.
Yeah, right.
You're done.
Yeah, if you want to pay to act out, go to Westworld.
Nice.
It actually makes me think. Cynthia was talking about. Sorry, guys.
You got to close down the metaverse.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, just got a very bizarre text. We were talking about toxic behavior, right? Just now, but also earlier about like toxic fandom, really, and that's also something I'm going to be excited will hopefully not have as much of a presence at the parks, just because of these changing visitation patterns, and it seems like a lot of these annual pass holders. I'm like entrenched in the video game world now. It seems like they've become speedrunners of the parks, like watching athletes or, esports players game the system or daisy chain fast passes to each other and go on as many rides as they can and things like that.
Shoving people out of the way in the process.
Right. And that is like just not the right way to enjoy the parks for anyone. So I'm hoping that maybe some of that will be relegated to some of these ancillary experiences, and the park will be just a little more peaceful, relaxed, chill place in general.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that.
I 100% agree with you, Michael. Like, we've talked about this over the years of like so I worked at Disneyland for 6 years and was an pass holder. The vibe and the people at Disneyland is so much different than the people at Walt Disney World. And like, it's almost like not fun to be at Disneyland for me when you see all these chaos and people who are this or that. Like, are you here to look, people want to have fun. I don't want to rain on their parade. It's just, I like a little bit more laid back lifestyle, grab a cocktail, hang out, maybe walk through the park, enjoy it. In Disney World, right? Go to Epcot, stroll. There's not even any rides. So you stroll around. I mean, there are rides, but that's the whole idea. It's an entertainment center. And Disneyland, it's like, it is a very different beast, and I'm kind of uncomfortable there now. With that, it's like it's crowded. It's people are, running here, running there, and it's like, whoa, like slow down. Like, are you here? Even it's like if you're on your pass holders, it's just like you want to chill out, relax.
Go ahead. I was going to say there's gatekeeping in every fandom, obviously, and it sucks. But I think you're seeing it amplified over the last 4 years for various reasons, because people have been enabled and empowered online to spew their vitriol. And, I think the real honest fans who would love to enjoy and celebrate theme parks are so tuning that out. Like I don't get in arguments with people on Twitter anymore because it's not worth amplifying them. I'm just going to talk about the things I love. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think Libby's actually absolutely right that the way the parks are going to be visited are going to change that conversation a little for more in a more celebratory way. There's always going to be people who pick stuff apart.
Well, we'll see, Dave. We'll see. I mean, if you're paying a ticket per visit, all of a sudden maybe you have an expectation. Well, we got to get as much value out of this as we can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
But there's a difference between that though and breaking a sense of ownership of the park, right?
Yeah.
Like we use the word guest, but a lot of people don't actually feel like they're guests in the park anymore. Right. They feel like this is a place that they partially own or have some sort of entitlement to. So I think at least democratizing the experience where everyone is coming in and feeling like they're a guest and experiencing the thing together in the same way, I think that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
I want to bring on our assistant producer Trevor now, who is a discerning consumer of theme parks at the very least, and I'd like to hear what he has to say. You're muted.
There we go. Nailed it. Wait. Opinion on a theme park going experience from now? I think it's going to be. I think we started talking about it. Wait, hold on, say it again.
What do you hope the theme park experience is going to be, and what do you?
Less people for sure. I think that idea of like actually making it more of a luxury experience is hitting the nail on the head. I know like Disney tried like with the pass holder program, jumping up those prices to try to get less people to actually sign up for the program and kind of control the levels in the crowds in the parks. But I think it'll go across the board for sure. But on the other side of that coin, like was already touched on about the regional experiences, I think that that's going to be a bigger thing for sure, especially when like the main goal, my impression of what the main goal was for Galaxy's Edge was to turn it into a kind of Westworld-like experience. So I think it's going to be more testing out that stuff on lower budget regional projects that will evolve there, but then also feed into the larger, the actual in-berm experience.
At the very least, I hope that a lower capacity experience is going to lead to the end of Fast Pass.
They took down the signs in Orlando, didn't they?
They did.
I don't know. I think well, it'll be virtual queues. I mean, I don't. Oh, that's a whole other discussion. People are I'm very pro Fast Pass, so I don't.
From an operational standpoint, is it just so that like you're not standing in line so you can spend money, or what is it?
I think it's a huge dissatisfier to be standing in a switchback queue waiting around. I don't think it's what we want to do.
But before Fast Pass, when on lower capacity days, like I remember vividly in 2004, 2005 when Space Mountain reopened for the 50th anniversary, and it didn't have Fast Pass. We would stand in line, and the line would be 45 minutes to an hour, but it never stopped. You never stopped for a second. And that is a huge psychological lift when you're waiting in a queue if you're constantly moving.
If you think of a switchback like an Omni mover, then you're good. It's good.
Yeah. This is a zero winner game. Like there's no winner to this argument. I'm telling you.
The only way to win is to not play.
Well, the thing that for newer rides built since Fast Pass, they simply don't have the. There's no space for all these people to wait in an hour and a half queue for some of their popular attractions.
Smugglers Run for sure.
Yeah,
right. They're not built for that.
They put you out backstage with the shipping containers and the garbage compactors and like not in a fun way.
Yeah, it's a mess. Well, so we're not here to talk about Fast Pass, but we are here to celebrate the 1 year of the show. It led to TETV, which has been really really fantastic, and obviously, we brought on some of our people who've been there from day one. We had obviously Men in Black anniversary show, which was just fantastic. Dave really put us on the map. Really appreciate that, and Rachel for all the work you've done and helping us make the show much better than it is when it was just me behind with 50 different things going on at once. And Michael for being there during that prediction day. That was really early on, and Jason, of course, you as well. We wouldn't be able to do it without friends that are willing to come on and chat with us about theme parks. Special shout out, of course, to CJ and Trevor, who are producers for this show now. We really appreciate them. Let's go around the room one last time for some final thoughts, words of inspiration. Let's be positive, or if we can, about the future ahead and where we think it's going. Why don't we go? CJ, why don't you go first, and we'll kind of do a little round the robin deal.
Awesome. Let's go big screen here. I'm really excited for where things are going. As someone who graduated last year and came in and couldn't tell if this was the lack of opportunity out there was due to the pandemic or that's just what it was as a graduate. I think these last month or two, you're really starting to see a lot of different applications open up across the board of all aspects of the industry. And I think that's just a sign that things are coming back really strong, and sooner rather than later, it's going to be really exciting to be out in public and in the themed entertainment world again. And from the vaccine side, I think that's all going to wrap up in the next couple months as well. And I'm really excited to see where that ends.
Awesome. Thank you. Over to Jason.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot has happened this last year, and I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that happening. But it's good to have stuff like you guys and this network kind of cataloging a lot of that stuff and being able to talk through it and everything. So I think it's interesting to hear what you guys are putting together. I'm excited for things like the game show, which, by the way, I think it's a total disservice to the industry if you don't call it Dream It, Do It, or Die. So you got to.
I think we might steal that.
So
do it or die.
Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with and coming on whenever I get a chance to.
Oh, we're happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on. And you were one of our very first guests, so it was we really appreciate it.
Trevor, over to you.
Me, all right. Well, as everybody's saying, first and foremost, get your vaccine when it's your turn for sure. I think last year was a lot of just kind of being in survival mode. And as soon as this year started, specifically with like the inauguration, but I feel like this year is going to be slowly, incrementally, things will just be getting better in all aspects. So even though it makes what our industry is going through right now very difficult, and I also work in film and television, so they're going through an entire evolution as well. So I think it's still going to be painful, but I am confident that things are going to be constantly getting better. So with that, I take hope.
Hope it's good. Hope it's good. Michael, always the optimist. Brostradamus.
Kind of building off of what Trevor said, like actually I think the thing I'm probably most excited for, we've been talking about mostly Disney parks this whole episode, but this is the themed entertainment TV network. It's a broader category than theme parks. I think we're going to
experience.
Yeah, themed experience. I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation in terms of form factors. Before the pandemic, we were seeing, things like the Void sort of pop up, and it was almost like new wave, or like, when the Strokes and those other bands came out and everyone was like, is rock and roll back? Is it? For a little bit? Like it was kind of happening. I think we're going to see a lot of different types of attractions and a lot of experimentation, like for shopping malls and activations. And I think that's what has me most excited, is just creating these new things, these new types of attractions.
I'd love to actually have you on to talk about that, because I know that you're on the bleeding edge of virtual reality, virtual experiences, and the gamification of themed experiences and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's going to play a huge role. It's all going to play a huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know Dave, works at a new company that is also in that business as well, and I think I think there's a show in that. I'd love to have you guys on to talk about the future of in-person and augmented and virtual experiences, and the gamification of life as it is.
I mean, gamification and as things like AR technology gets better, it really is going to be. It's less about the technology, though. It's just we have what, 5 generations, myself included, raised on video games, raised on things that allow you agency and interactivity, and that's an expectation now, right? And you have entire entertainment forms that are about watching other people play games, like esports, like Twitch. So that line between that hard brick and mortar line is going to start eroding. And you're going to see experiences that start online and continue in a real space and go back online and back and forth and back and forth. That is inevitable.
Yeah, no, that's great.
My final, if my final statement other than that would be that, I think this channel is so great because you guys, for instance, helped me celebrate the 20th anniversary of an attraction during COVID when I couldn't go see it. And it's coming full circle because I'm in Orlando next weekend. I'm going to be there for the 21st anniversary of the ride, and drink my way around the park since the attraction is of legal drinking age. So I will see you all there inebriated. But more importantly, I think what I want in the future and what I predict in the future is more dialogue like this about this as an art form and what it means to people, and from fandom and fans. We all love this stuff. Be kind to each other, be good fans, elevate your love of it, and don't tear down other people. Like, just try to have empathy for the world around you, because these places are made by those personal interactions. It's not just the hardware. It's not just the rides. It's seeing your friends. It's meeting new people in line. It's all of those things. And I think if anything, COVID has told us we need these things more than anything. So be nice to each other.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Very
Rachel,
true.
I believe you're next.
Yeah. I think something, at least that I've experienced and a lot of my friends have experienced, is that we have now, because we've been denied a lot of social experiences or a lot of different just events and activities that we could have done beforehand, before the pandemic, we've now taken that time to analyze and break down a lot of what we did love about those social experiences. So like, I couldn't go to Disneyland again with one of my friends for her birthday this year like we did last year, but like looking at the photos or talking about the event itself. It's given us a lot of insight into, if you don't like something or if it doesn't speak to you, you don't have to partake in it. Like, you don't have to do it. If you do like something, I think before it's sort of a mortification of being known, of the, like, I don't want people to know I enjoy things, or I don't want people to know I like things. More like I don't want people to know I'm not playing it cool about certain things, or like I'm really passionate about themed entertainment. If you do like something, you should just have shamelessness in doing the thing or enjoying the thing or going to the thing, because there's so, I mean, not to be super morbid, but there's so little right now to gain any form of joy out of, that if you can find something that gives you a small amount of serotonin in any way, you should just go ahead and do it. It's like, no matter what it is, if you think it's stupid or if you think other people will think it's stupid, like, now we're just coming to a point of, if you like the thing, do the thing. And I think that's going to suit us a lot better and be a lot healthier for us moving forward, of just being authentic and having that be more of a norm. That's what I look forward to.
Amen. Happiness police has been defunded. Do you? Patrick, do you want to go?
Yeah.
You want to go last?
No, I'll go. I'll go. Boom. Here I go. I really like. This is gonna sound a little weird, maybe a little weird, but like, I need to have my faith restored in humanity a little bit and be connected with other humans that I disagree with. Meaning, like, I want to be sitting in an amphitheater watching the Indiana Jones stunt show with an audience, diverse audience, people who voted for Trump, people who voted for Biden, whoever, just laughing together at the same jokes. And I feel like we've lost so much of that over the past year. And when I'm out now in public, I'm constantly like looking at noses and making sure masks are fully on. And it's kind of like a perpetual state of like fear. I don't want to say fear, but just like anxiety around me of like, oh, who's this guy? Do they safe? Are they not? And so I'm really looking forward to going back to communal experiences like that, where it doesn't matter who you are at home, we can all come together. And I think we need that to kind of bridge the gap and have more productive conversations. And that's what I think you guys will see in theme parks when you start going back to them, which we've had in Orlando for a while, is just being able to go and have fun with other people. Is really important. So that's my hope for the future, is it's going to come sooner than we think.
Yeah, I share your sentiment of hope as well. Having, I haven't been to a theme park in a year and a half almost now. But having been to Vegas a few times at various ebbs and flows of the pandemic, the reaction that I had to being in crowds was always surprising. When we came out of a show and there were a lot of people around, I felt an anxiety that I'd never felt before in a crowd. Maybe with one exception, the exception being the 24-hour party at Disneyland some years ago, where like it was like a mob scene, and it was like I felt threatened. But yeah, I mean, just like I look forward to not fearing other people, and I think that once the theme parks here in California open safely and sensibly, and I feel like just being in that sort of permissive environment, I feel like will sort of give me permission to, like we said at the very beginning of the show, not be living in fear, and allowing myself to relax and realize that like, okay, like I'm vaccinated. Most of these people are probably vaccinated. We're all just being extra careful, and also having a good time and sharing the space and sharing the experience together, and being happy in large groups, and seeing like I can't even imagine how emotional the first time I see a big castle, projection and pyro show is going to be, and hearing the music swell and all the Disney feelings or Universal feelings returning. I mean, I'm it's very possible that the first time I go back to a theme park may be at Halloween Horror Nights in Florida this year to see the new shows and attractions and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm expecting a whole spectrum of emotions to just come welling up, I see people, who are reporting getting their vaccinations and being very emotional about vaccinations. I hope that I'll be able to find out very soon how I feel about that.
Yeah.
But and also, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I also want to say how grateful I am over this past year for my burgeoning friendship with Patrick, who I knew is more of an acquaintance more than anything. We were friendly, but like now we've become, I think, really close friends and partners in TETV and in the show. And our day-to-day management of this entire network has been at every moment a joy. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. Whatever happens in the future with this network, everything that has gone before has just been a gift, and I'm very grateful for that. And all of our volunteers, like Rachel and CJ and Trevor and the 30 other people that give their time and talents to make all of this stuff happen for you, our friends, colleagues and fans of themed experiences. Because I fought for the tagline for the network, which isn't used very often, but experience is everything. And by that I mean the experiences that we share together. And I'm looking forward to sharing experiences together with all of you very soon.
Yeah. Well, Andy, I have to comment on that. you're a great partner. Sorry about what happened earlier, but you're a great partner. And I'm no, you're right. Like we're Andy and I are messaging each other around the clock, all day long, working and getting the network going. And I think it's a really great. I think Andy has great perspectives on everything, and we're really great balance each other out. And it would literally none of this would be possible if it weren't for that initial tweet that you responded to, which is really quite remarkable. The power of social media. So. Andy's really a huge force for the network, and it's really, he does so many things that are just really outstanding. And it would not be I don't think either of us could just walk away at this point. There's too much that we're all work together on, and I hope we can keep doing this as long as YouTube is possible. I don't want to retire early. I want to keep doing this because I think it's such a great platform and really quite remarkable how far it's gone. But thanks to all the volunteers, we have Rachel. Well, we're all volunteers, right? No one, Andy and I, we always say we lose money on this every year, but that's okay. We're a year in, so I guess that is true. Just because of domain names and subscriptions and things, but well worth it to help shape the industry and amplify all these amazing voices that you see here. I mean, when are we ever going to hear what Dave Cobb or Michael Libby or Jason? No, other voices out besides these guys that we bring on the network all year long.
And Cynthia Sharpe. No one ever knows what Cynthia thinks. I mean, it's a mystery.
Yeah, this is a really bad example in general of a show for inclusion, but we did try. We did bring together, and we know that we're going to be striving to do better all the time with that. But with that, wow. 2-hour spectacular showcase showdown. Couple of reminders, folks, before we kind of land the plane here. We made big announcements. We have a Big Break Foundation show. Go to www.bigbreakfoundation.org. Get a sneak peek about that. Go to TETV or Themed Experience TV.com and sign up for our newsletter. We also have a Slack community. So I think everybody here on this call is a part of that Slack community where we're exchanging ideas, where job postings are up. People are reviewing each other's resumes. Virtual coffees are being had. I think it's a pretty cool environment.
People are already getting jobs and hearing feedback of all kinds of things. It's been great.
Yeah, so check that out. It's on our website under community or get involved. Just follow the link there. It's completely open to anybody. Please help us spread the word about that. And also, just thanks to all of you. It's been great to be back. We'll be back for a few more weeks. One other important thing is that it is autism awareness acceptance. They're using both words now. So TETV special this month is going to be focused on autism, and so be on the lookout for that. We don't have it scheduled yet, but that's going to be a great show, another great show in the TETV arsenal. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Thank you to our guests, Jason and Dave
Thank you
and Michael and Rachel, and our producers, CJ, MJ, and Trevor. As always, thank you guys so much. This has been great. Happy anniversary, everybody. We did it.
Yeah,
happy anniversary.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
And many more.
Thank you.